The sound of machinery and the smell of oil, flesh, and blood was in the air. An unnatural mixture of smells that Alastor liked and disliked all the same. It left him unsatisfied. The radio demon had arranged a meeting with one of Rosie's close compatriots. After Charlie and Vaggie barged in on him eating a meal he acquired on an outing, demanding that for the sake of the hotel, his future meals were ethically sourced. The demon he was meeting with went by the name of Brain, due to his propensity to enjoy the organ for his meals. Alastor had requested a tour of the place, all for Charlie and her peace of mind. And Brain, knowing the radio demon from old stories and gossip from Rosie, was all too eager to meet the enigmatic overlord. Brain was actually quite pleasant, for being a 6'5" tall cannibal, his intellect being just as strong as his muscles. Of course, at first he only showed the nice parts of the factory, or at least as nice as they could be. The floors were clean. He showed off the living quarters of the human cattle, and how they were kept on just enough drugs and antidepressants to simply ignore the void that they found themselves in. He then showed off the entertainment section, where attractive cattle were dressed in pleasing attire for entertainment purposes. Though Brain quickly realized by reading Alastor's face that maybe I should have skipped this. The radio demon didn't feel much in regards to these activities, and wanted to move on as quickly as possible. Either way, cattle was cattle, and would be treated as such. By the end of the pleasant sections of the factory, as pleasant as the place could be, Alastor finally had enough.
My good man, I'd like to see the heart of it all. Not just this public access papalapap.
Which earned the radio demon an affectionate smile from the owner. The demon nodded, guiding Alastor into the darkness of the meat factory. Alastor watched the process of how the cut meat was turned into bloody fillets, how the meat was cleaned, deboned, and even got to see a live butchering of a demon. What interested Alastor, however, was the final question that still left in the room.
So, what makes this ethically sourced specifically?
Brain shrugged, smiled, and then showed the radio demon the medical wing. After the cattle was butchered and processed, their remains were artificially kept alive for regeneration. The medical wing looked like a low-budget hospital. The floors were grey, the medical staff just a few bored-looking imps in nurse outfits, and the patients bandaged up in bloody rags, their heads poking out from beneath bedsheets that quite obviously showed off how little was left of their bodies. Once the two overlords reached the end of the tour, Brain invited Alastor to a complimentary meal in the executive suite at the factory's top floor. And as Alastor entered, he almost sneered. Sure, the rest of the building was cold, industrial, a nightmare of flesh and blood, but of course the executive office was pleasant. Warmly decorated, even had a little fountain, and an AC. Alastor was seated at a dinner table, and soon an imp brought the meal. 2 pieces of fillet, lightly seasoned, with a gentle cranberry sauce, and some melted cheese on top. His brain went on talking about his profit margins, and how this was a family business, Alastor cut into the meat. He wasn't listening at all. As a matter of fact, he hasn't been listening to the demon at all the entire time. He was just here to please Charlie, so Vaggie got off his back. But as his knife cut through the meal, he noticed how strangely tender it was. Much more tender than the machines could ever produce. So this meat had been cut by a master by hand. Well, this just meant that Brain knew who he was talking to, and so he smiled wider. But as he put it in his mouth and bit down on it, his eyes widened in shock. The taste, it was familiar, delicious, mouth-watering. His heart beat faster. There was no way. He savored every second the meat was in his mouth, and he hated that he had to swallow it. Yet still, he did. It went down his throat pleasantly. Exhaling, he placed the fork down, gaining him a questioning look from Brain.
The demon you got it from.
He pointed at the meat.
I think I know her.
Brain blinked twice, thrice, and then finally asked,
How you know it's a woman?
It was the first time Alastor really heard his voice. It was graining his ears, but Alastor remained calm, tapping his fingers on the table.
I'd like to see her.
Brain ordered his imp to keep the meat warm as he stepped forward. Still, he was taken aback, confused even. But it was this taste Alastor's mind would not forget. No matter how hard he tried. It was a mistake he made, a wrong choice at the right time, that forged an attachment he never felt before, for anyone, or anything for that matter. He was guided back to the medical wing, to a bed in the western part of it. The two men had walked past earlier, and as Brain pointed at the bed beside him, Alastor blinked. Looking at the bandaged up bundle in the bed, while normally an adult, due to the harvesting of your flesh, the bundle you had been bound into was around the size of a baby, with a big round head. Strands of green hair poked out from beneath the bloody bandages, and as you heard the radio crackle of Alastor, your head shook ever so slightly. When you had heard the muffled static earlier, just walking past you, you could have sworn this was the last time you'd ever hear it.
My good man, explain to me why she's here.
Brain blinked confused.
Like all the others, they sign a sole contract for 20 years. We drug them, harvest them, whenever regenerated. We don't kill them. Slows down regeneration as well as making them weaker. And the taste not terrible. You know, it's ethically sourced.
Yes, you have perfected the art of completely gutting everything possible from a demon's body without actually having them pass on. I get that.
Brain hummed in approval.
Sure, we're listening.
Alastor didn't react to the comment.
I'd like her back.
Alastor sat straight up.
As her soul belongs to me.
I've legitimately purchased it.
Alastor crossed his arms. Looks like the contract he had with you expired during the 7-year absence. God damn it.
And meat is great, my favorite.
Alastor's eyes shot towards Brain. A threatening cackle came from him. Alastor crossed his arms. Looks like the contract he had with you expired during the 7-year absence. He was wondering why he could not summon you to be staff for the Aspen Hotel. He had just assumed you died during an extermination.
And her meat is great. Actually, my favorite.
Alice's eyes shot towards Brain, a threatening crackle coming from him. From the ground beneath Brain, a shadowy tentacle emerged. It wrapped around the demon's throat so quickly he was unable to react. Sure, Alastor's might may have been reduced since Adam broke his cane, but he was still an overlord, dammit. Though Brain could feel that the tentacle wasn't squeezing hard enough to damage anything. Luckily for Alastor, Brain took it as the radio demon showing patience and mercy. Something which he knew through Rosie was rare, practically non-existent.
Fine, let's talk about it,
barked the giant man, assuming that Alastor could just destroy the factory, his livelihood, and he didn't want that. Upon Alastor letting him go, he rubbed his throat.
Let's go write up something, huh?
He said, before turning around and leaving. Meanwhile, Alastor leaned over the bed, his hand gently caressing where your chin should probably be. Don't worry, my sweeting.
I'll be back soon.
Brain turned out to be quite simple to deal with. He was willing to sell your soul contract. After all, selling cattle was common in his line of work. Though considering he was fond of your meats, it was annoyingly expensive. And Alastor never wanted to hit someone as much as this man before him. But he had to admit he was interested in continuing a work relationship with this man. He could be useful down the line. And so the ownership of your soul once again fell into the greedy hands of Alastor the radio demon. 3 days later, after all, your body needed to function enough to walk again. You made your way to the Aspen Hotel, given directions by Brain. The drugs in your system still clouded your perception of everything. Frightened, like a soul on its first day in hell, you walked, eyes focused on the ground as it moved. Colors changing, shifting, embracing each other. Staying far away from the black, wretched nightmares that were the other demons. You stopped on your tracks, staring at the gate leading into the Aspen Hotel's courtyard. Meanwhile, on the inside, something was stirring. Her tiny feet carrying her to Alastor's room. Nifty, the hotel's maid, burst down the door. At least this time he wasn't doing anything nefarious, as Alastor was merely playing on his piano. "Boss! Boss! 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 Boss!" shouted Nifty. Being fond of the gremlin, he refrained from complaining about her bursting in like that. "Someone's at the door!"
Well, what do I have to do with that?
"They aren't moving, just staring. Are you gonna kill her?" Alastor sighed. Seems like a cleanup job. Oh well, he was getting bored anyway. But as he stepped outside, he was met by you, standing at the gate.
Nifty, my dear, how long has she been standing there?
2 hours. Alastor deadpanned. And you didn't tell me earlier. Oh, well.
She is a guest, so please prepare room for her.
You got it, boss! Rushing back inside, Alastor took the opportunity of approaching you, looking at you through the iron bars. Your eyes were heavily dilated. A little bit of spittle ran out of your mouth. Your arms ended in half-regenerated stumps, and one of your eyes was missing. Your body was not only covered in deep, ugly scars, but also dotted line tattoos, indicating where your limbs had been chopped off over and over and over again. You were dressed in an almost slutty black tank top that exposed your midriff, and you wore tight and incredibly short pants. Sandals had been loosely shoved over your feet, and your green hair was unkempt and dirty, reaching just below your hips. You were a Craver demon, uncommon yet not rare creatures. As the name implies, Craver demons had an eternal craving in accordance to their personality and life. In your case, you had an endless craving for entertainment. You needed a constant influx of things happening around you, be it movies, TV shows, video games, drugs, attention, or, well, being repeatedly devoured by someone. As long as you weren't sitting in an office staring at graphs, or sitting in a stuffy staff room listening to coworkers drone on endlessly, you were happy and would not go on a rampage that you would have no control over. Some said that your kind was just lazy, but laziness was a craving your kind could have, too. And, appropriately, those cravers spent their eternity in the sloth layer of hell. Craving entertainment had made you unhinged, at least when Alastor was your master. The last time. Similar to Nifty, you followed all his orders to a T. Just the difference was that not only did you actually offer your body to him to be eaten, but also you could hold a conversation for more than 5 minutes without being distracted. As long as the said conversation was entertaining enough to you.
Oh dear,
muttered Alastor, smiling brightly after 10 minutes of staring at you in amusement. Letting you inside, you slumped forward. He caught you playfully late.
oh dear, oh dear. Ah, sweetheart, let me help you inside.
An evil undertone you were unable to pick up on was hidden in his voice. He was enjoying this, probably more than he had anticipated. Elegantly shoved you into the hotel, Husk being the only one present at the time, as it was quite late. He looked you up and down.
Since when you're into drug bitches?
Which earned him a glare.
Oh, no, she is an old friend of mine. Don't you recognize her?
The cat demon looked you up and down. It took him a moment, and then he recognized you. And angrily he sputtered Alastor.
Can't you let this poor girl rest, for fuck's sake?
The red demon put 2 fingers on the ends of your lips, forcing you to smile painfully.
I'll let you know, Husk, my friend, I actually saved her from a far worse fate.
He recognized the tattoos and scars on your body, and sighed.
Do you get off to this shit?
He asked you straight up. You only vaguely realized what was going on around you, yet by now the drugs had been out of your system enough that you understood the things that were said around you, and so you looked at the floor in shame, shaking your head. You in fact did not get off to this. You just had too much pride to partake in Angel Dust's vocation, as well as your craver nature making it impossible to work any other job. Being human cattle was the only way to your knowledge, and you hated it. Husk leaned against the bar.
I don't know if you fully understand what I'm saying, but when that crap is out of your system and he is done with you for the night, and you can still walk, hopefully, let's have a drink. Got it? We need to catch up.
You nodded, vaguely aware of his presence, before Alastor once again guided you upstairs, taking your hand gently. Thankfully, Charlie was off visiting her father for dinner. Delightfully ironic, really. He chuckled as he sat you down at his dinner table, before walking over to his wine case. He had collected quite a few over the decades, and even now was completely unsure which one to drink for the occasion. After all, it had been 7 years. Until finally he made his selection. Chuckling ever so darkly, he took an old Pinot Noir, due to it being fruity and soft. It was quite the crowd pleaser. This one being a good and well-aged French Burgundy, quite difficult to get a hold of in hell. He offered you a glass which you stared at, occasionally blinking while he brought out his other tools. A sharpened butcher knife that had meticulously prepared for 12 hours yesterday. A small selection of non-addictive painkillers, which he all placed on the table in front of you. He chuckled, pouring wine into your glass, and then his own.
On to a great night, my dear. I'm sure neither of us will sleep tonight.
Still not fully mentally there, you took the glass between your stumps, slowly drinking, matching his speed. Once half empty, he sighed pleased.
I actually must admit that I think I missed you.
He grinned, as one of his shadow's demons pulled your chair away from the table. And then patiently, Alastor knelt down before you, his hands gently going up and down your legs. He always had such tender skin. He pinched you painfully, making you gasp. And always so sensitive, prone to bruising. He inhaled. Alastor stopped himself at your upper thigh. He stared at your flesh. His mouth watered. It was so difficult to resist the urge to straight up bite into it. You had no hairs on your body aside from your head. You shivered at his gentle touches. And so, to satisfy his imminent urges, he allowed himself an early taste. His teeth scraping painfully over your scarred skin, making you gasp. His tongue licking over the hardened bumps of your damaged body. And then you felt it. The old familiar sting of his teeth as they penetrated your skin, sinking slowly, deeply into your flesh. A sharp squeal came from your mouth, quickly slapping both stumps of your lips to muffle your screams of pain. Sure, you may be a bit of a masochist, but only to a certain point. This pain wasn't pleasurable. His teeth were just too long, and his long, sharp tongue too greedy to lap up your blood. It buried into the wounds he caused, but Alastor just barely managed to behave himself, just a tiny bit. His heart was beating fast, but he did not want to spoil this. It had been so long since he had you, and he wanted your leg, and turned it into prosciutto, devoured slowly over a period with crackers and cheese, maybe some old Italian opera music while he enjoyed the wine, enjoying your facial expression as he made you watch him eat you. Not to mention that pesky feline wanted to tear your attention away from him. A drink. You were his meal, and no one else's. With the jealousy of a psychotic boyfriend, he would hound over you and extend your contract for all eternity. Not to mention being such willing cattle. Charlie would be satisfied, as your meat was definitely ethically sourced.
We have reached the end of the video,
And thank you very much for watching until this point. Please remember to like and subscribe, and comment something down below. I read every comment that you write me. But before we say goodbye, I would like to shout out all of my lovely channel members, starting with my lovely stewards. Kathy Misery, Hopeful, Mystic Jade 111, Annabelle A. Contreras, Giovanni Moriarty, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, BitBit, Melofia, and Anonymous Weep. And of course, a big thank you to all of my other channel members. You guys are awesome, and you keep me fed. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a nice one, and goodbye.